Well, just a day after agreeing to repeal a controversial anti-strike law, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he's willing to improve the government's offer to education workers. Lior Samfiru joins me now. Lior is an employment lawyer. Thank you so much for coming back here on CTV News Channel. You were listening to Chanel there. You heard, of course, I'm sure, the announcement from Premier Doug Ford. Your reaction now to where things have now pivoted in this debate, in these negotiations?
I think both sides have drawn their lines in the sand and have shown that they have strength and the ability to maybe force the other to their will. And that potentially now creates an impasse. We know the union is strong. We know the government is willing to do things that are powerful. So where do they go from here? And that's going to require some compromise. I think for the government, they're playing the long game here because they're not just dealing with this CUPE union. They have other unions that are lining up to negotiate with the government. So they're very mindful of that. But at some point, someone's going to have to compromise, or we're going to find ourselves in exactly the same position that we were last week. It's just unclear at this point who that person is going to be.
And this also really sets the direction for future negotiations. We're seeing that, of course, with GO bus drivers, with Metrolinx. They are in the midst of their talks with their contract. They're on strike right now. We know that to educate, elementary school and secondary school teachers, they'll be up for their contracts soon enough, and those negotiations will be taking place. So this really kind of sets the path forward, would you say?
I do, and I think that, from the government's perspective, they wanted to send the message that they're going to be very conservative in their ability to provide pay increases. And I think that potentially what we may see here is what we see in other industries, and that is the parties say, we can't resolve this on their own, so we're going to get someone else to do this for us. Go to an arbitration and have an arbitrator decide what the increases are and what the terms are. And if they do that here, that's potentially a blueprint that the government can then use with other unions and other organizations, not just the government, which may be the compromise that is needed to bridge the gap here.
Why do you think binding arbitration was not put forward before Bill 28 was legislated, before the notwithstanding clause?
Well, I think from the government's perspective, they don't like the idea generally because it does mean that the employees are going to get more than what the government is offering. There's always going to be some number in between. And from the government's perspective, they may not have been willing to make that compromise then. Now, though, I think that may change when they realize that the consequences of not reaching a deal are far worse than that compromise. And it also allows the government potentially to save face, to say, we didn't give this increase. We didn't say we're going to pay more. That was imposed on us by someone else. So perhaps you can't hold it against us, maybe voters of Ontario. We said we're going to cut back costs. We're still doing that. This was imposed by an arbitrator. So it's different.
Yeah, it certainly is different. And now, of course, I guess maybe we're, as you say, treading in some new waters here with this new improved agreement the government is now presenting before the workers' union. What are you going to be watching for then?
Well, I certainly want to see if arbitration is going to happen. And I want to see, if not, then is the government truly going to put that threat back on the table, which is if there's no deal, we're going to go back to that notwithstanding clause, to Bill 28. I don't think they're going to want to do that. I think a deal has to be reached here. I'm just curious to see really if someone is going to finally suggest go to arbitration and just get it done.
Yeah, because it also comes down to a lot of that trust factor there, which is what we're seeing now. That's kind of weighing in the balance for the government, at least. Lior, it's great to have you to get your analysis on this. Lior Samfiru is an employment lawyer. Thank you again for this.
Thank you.